0. Hi everyone. In this video, we'll be diving into some of the most frequent Java interview questions and their answers. Stay tuned. What is a concurrent modification exception? A concurrent modification exception occurs when a collection is modified while it is being iterated over, in a non-thread safe manner. This often happens in multi-threaded environments. How can you invoke a method using the Reflection API? You can invoke a method using Reflection API by first obtaining the method object for the method through the class's getMethod method. Then, use the invoke method on this method object, passing the instance and parameters. What is a record in Java? Introduced in Java 14, a record is a type of class in Java that is a transparent holder for shallowly immutable data. It aims to reduce boilerplate while maintaining a clear and concise representation of data aggregates. What is an atomic variable? Atomic variables in Java, like atomic integer, provide a way to perform atomic operations on a single variable without using synchronization. They are used in concurrent programming to avoid issues like race conditions. What is a short-circuit method? Short-circuit methods in Java, such as AnyMatch, AllMatch, and NoneMatch in streams, allow for computation to stop as soon as the result is known, which can improve performance especially for large datasets. What is a constructor? A constructor is a special method in a class that is called when an object of the class is created. It initializes the new object and its attributes. When should you use extends T? Extends T is used in generics for upper-bounded wildcards. It allows for flexibility by accepting any type that is a subtype of T, making the code more reusable. What is an annotation? Annotations in Java are a form of metadata that provide data about the program but do not affect the program itself. They can be used for information for the compiler, compile time and deployment time processing, or runtime processing. How can you model a concurrent task in Java? Concurrent tasks in Java can be modeled using various mechanisms like implementing the runnable interface, extending the thread class, or using executor services for a higher-level abstraction. Comparing doubles with a comparator of numbers? When comparing doubles with a comparator of numbers, care must be taken due to precision and rounding differences. A comparator can be used to define custom comparison logic. Difference between toList and collectors.toList? In Java, toList is a method in the stream interface that collects elements into a list. Collectors.toList, on the other hand, is a static method in the collectors class that is often used in the collect method of a stream to accumulate elements into a list. The key difference lies in their use cases within stream operations. What is the difference between a collection and a list? A collection is a root interface in the Java Collections framework and does not specify any order for the elements. A list is a sub-interface of collection and represents an ordered sequence of elements where duplicate values are allowed. Creating an instance of a class using the Reflection API? To create an instance using the Reflection API, first obtain the class object for the target class, then use its new_instance method. For parameterized constructors, obtain the constructor object and call new_instance with the required arguments. What is a deadlock? Deadlock is a situation in concurrent programming where two or more threads are blocked forever, each waiting for the other to release a resource. This typically occurs in scenarios where multiple threads need the same locks but obtain them in different orders. What list can you pass to a method that takes a list of number? You can pass any list that contains objects of a class that extends from number, like list integer, list double, etc., due to the polymorphic behavior of Java. Difference between an intermediate and a terminal operation? In Java streams, intermediate operations return a stream and allow further operations. They are lazy and don't perform any processing until a terminal operation is invoked. Terminal operations, like for each or collect, produce a result or a side effect and end the stream pipeline. What does passing by value mean? In Java, passing by value means that a copy of the variable is made and the method receives that copy. Changes made to the parameter inside the method do not affect the original variable. How can you declare a generic type on a static method? A generic type on a static method is declared within the method signature. It's defined before the return type of the method. For example, t-void method name, tparam. How can you update a field using the Reflection API? To update a field using Reflection, first get the field object using getField or getDeclaredField, make it accessible if necessary using setAccessible true, and then use set to change the field's value on an object instance. How can you join strings with a separator? In Java, you can join strings with a separator using the string.join method or using stringjoiner. String.join takes a delimiter and the strings to be joined. How is set.of working? Set.of is a static factory method introduced in Java 9 that creates an immutable set containing the given elements. It's part of the Java Collections framework and is useful for creating small, fixed-size sets. How can you remove elements from a stream? Elements cannot be directly removed from a stream as it is a read-only view on data. However, you can filter out elements you don't need using the filter method, which returns a new stream with only the elements that match the given predicate. How can you stop a thread? Stopping a thread is done by interrupting it using the interrupt method. It's the recommended way to stop a thread as it allows the thread to complete its current tasks and release resources properly. The thread's code must be written to handle interruptions correctly. What is a generic type? A generic type in Java is a class or interface that is parameterized over types. They enable classes and interfaces to be more flexible by allowing them to operate on various data types while providing compile-time type safety. How is synchronization working? Synchronization in Java is a mechanism to control access to shared resources by multiple threads to prevent data inconsistency. The synchronized keyword can be used to make methods or blocks of code atomic, meaning that only one thread can execute it at a time. What is the difference between map and flat map? The map method in Streams API is used for transforming each element of the stream using a given function. Flat map, on the other hand, not only transforms each element but also flattens several smaller streams into a single stream. What is the difference between runnable and thread? Runnable is an interface that represents a task to be run in a thread and needs to be implemented by any class whose instances are intended to be executed by a thread. Thread, on the other hand, is a class that represents a thread of execution. A thread can execute any runnable. How can you start a thread? To start a thread in Java, create an instance of thread or a subclass of thread, and then call its start method. The start method triggers the execution of the run method in the thread. How is list.of working? Similar to set.of, list.of is a static method introduced in Java 9 that creates an immutable list from the given elements. The list is fixed size and does not support operations that would modify its size or contents. What is a sealed type in Java? Sealed types, introduced in Java 15 as a preview feature, allow for restricted polymorphism. A sealed class or interface can restrict which other classes or interfaces may extend or implement them. How can you find duplicates in a list? Duplicates in a list can be found by using a set. You can iterate over the list, adding elements to the set. If add returns false, it indicates a duplicate. Alternatively, you can use Java streams to filter out duplicates efficiently. What is the class named class? The class in Java is part of the Reflection API and represents the classes and interfaces in a running Java application. It is used to get metadata about a class, including its methods, fields, constructors, and annotations. How can you create a file with Java I/O? A file can be created in Java using the file class. You can instantiate a file object by passing the file path and then use its createNewFile method, which returns true if the file did not exist and was successfully created. How can you create an unmodifiable list? In Java, an unmodifiable list can be created using collections.unmodifiableList list. This method returns a view of the specified list that is unmodifiable, meaning that any attempt to modify the list will result in an unsupported operation exception. What is the var keyword in Java? The var keyword was introduced in Java 10 as part of local variable type inference. It allows you to declare a local variable without specifying its type, which is inferred by the compiler from the context. Can you cite some methods from the Stream API? Some common methods in the Stream API include map, filter, reduce, collect, foreach, flatmap, sorted, distinct, and limit. These methods enable functional style operations on streams of elements. How is arrays.asList working? Arrays.asList is a method that converts an array into a fixed size list backed by the original array. Any changes to the list directly affect the array, and vice versa. However, this list does not support any operation that changes its size. How does a set know that it already contains an element? A set in Java uses the equals and hashcode methods to determine if it already contains an element. These methods are used to check for duplicates and to distribute elements across the sets buckets efficiently. What is the maximum length of a string in Java? The maximum length of a string in Java is integer.max_value, 2 to the power of 31, 1, since a string's length is stored as an integer. However, the maximum length can also be limited by the maximum array size in Java and the heap size. How many objects can you put in a collection? Theoretically, you can add up to integer.max_value elements in a Java collection. Practically, the limit is often determined by the available memory and specific limitations of the collection implementation. What are the 4 Java I/O base classes? The 4 base classes in Java I/O are File Input Stream and File Output Stream 4-byte streams, and File Reader and File Writer for character streams. These classes provide fundamental functionality for reading and writing data to files. What is an iterator? An iterator is an interface in the Java Collections framework. It allows for traversing a collection element by element and typically provides methods for checking if more elements are available, hasNext, and for retrieving the next element, next. What is an executor service? Executor service is an interface in the Java Concurrency API. It represents an object that executes submitted runnable or callable tasks. It provides methods for managing the termination and tracking progress of asynchronous tasks. What is the hash code of an object? In Java, the hash code of an object is provided by the hashcode method. It's typically a unique integer representation of the object's memory address. Hashcodes are used in hashing-based collections like HashSet and HashMap for efficient data storage and retrieval. What is a stream? In Java, a stream is an abstraction that represents a sequence of elements supporting sequential and parallel aggregate operations. Introduced in Java 8, streams support functional style operations like MapReduce transformations on collections. What difference between a checked and an unchecked exception? Checked exceptions are exceptions that are checked at compile time, like I/O exception. Unchecked exceptions are not checked at compile time, typically extend runtime exception, and include errors like null pointer exception or arithmetic exception. What is the difference between file and path? The file class is an older Java I/O class that represents file and directory path names. Path is part of the newer Java NIO.2 and provides more advanced features for file and directory manipulation. Path is more flexible and provides better methods for file handling. What is the difference between a collection and a stream? A collection is an in-memory data structure to hold elements before and after processing. A stream is a conceptually fixed data structure, in which elements are computed on demand. While collections focus on storage, streams focus on the computational aspect of data. What does synchronized mean? The synchronized keyword in Java is used to control access to critical sections of code. It ensures that only one thread can execute a synchronized method or block at a time, preventing race conditions in multi-threading environments. When to use a Java throw exception? Throw in Java is used to explicitly throw an exception from a method or any block of code. It's used when a specific error condition arises and an exception needs to be passed up to the method that called this method. What is a bucket in a map? In a Java map, a bucket is a fundamental concept in the internal structure of a hash map or hash table. It's used to store entries, key-value pairs. The map uses the key's hash code to determine which bucket an entry should be placed in, helping in efficient data retrieval. How can you count how many times a letter appears in a string? To count occurrences of a specific letter in a string, you can iterate over the string, comparing each character with the target letter, and increment a counter when a match is found. Alternatively, Java 8 streams can be used to simplify this with a filter and count operation. What are the different categories of design patterns? Design patterns in software engineering are typically categorized into three types: creational patterns like singleton and factory, which deal with object creation mechanisms; structural patterns like adapter and decorator, which concern class and object composition; and behavioral patterns like strategy and observer, which handle object interactions and responsibility. What pattern has been used to create the Java I/O API? The Java I/O API primarily uses the decorator design pattern. This pattern allows behavior to be added to individual objects, either statically or dynamically, without affecting the behavior of other objects from the same class. How does a sorted set work? Sorted set is an interface in Java that extends set and provides ordering on its elements. The elements are ordered using their natural ordering, or by a comparator provided at set creation time. The set's iterator will traverse the set in ascending element order. How can you print an array on the console? To print an array in Java, you can use arrays.toString array for single-dimensional arrays or arrays.deep-to-string array for multidimensional arrays. These methods return a string representation of the array's contents, which can then be printed to the console. How can you open a file for reading binary data? To read binary data from a file in Java, you can use File Input Stream. It allows for reading bytes from a file, making it suitable for reading data in binary format. Difference between a sorted and an ordered collection? A sorted collection means that the elements are arranged according to some criteria, like numerical or alphabetical order. An ordered collection means that the elements follow a specific, consistent order, which is not necessarily sorted. For example, elements are in the order in which they were inserted. How can you open a file for writing text? To write text to a file in Java, you can use classes like FileWriter or PrintWriter. These classes provide methods to write text data to files. For more control over character encoding, Output Stream Writer with a file output stream can be used. Can you cite functional interfaces from before Java 8? Before Java 8, the concept of functional interfaces existed informally. Examples include runnable, callable, comparator, and action listener. These interfaces have only one abstract method and can represent a single function contract. How can you create a comparator? A comparator in Java can be created by implementing the comparator interface and defining the compare method. Java 8 also introduced lambda expressions, which allow for more concise creation of comparators, for example, O1, O2, -O1.compareTo, O2. What is the GOF? GOF stands for Gang of Four, who authored the seminal book Design Patterns, Elements of Reusable Object-Oriented Software. This book categorizes and describes 23 classic software design patterns, which are now foundational in software design and architecture. What is the difference between FIFO and LIFO? FIFO stands for first in, first out, and it's a queue where the first element added is the first one to be removed. LIFO, or last in, first out, represents a stack where the last element added is the first one to be removed. They are different ways of managing the order of elements. What is a grouping by? In Java's Stream API, grouping by is a collector that groups elements of the stream by a certain property or criterion. It's often used for categorizing elements into a map where the key is the grouping criterion, and the value is a list of elements that match that criterion. On what kind of source can you build a stream? In Java, you can build streams from various data sources, including collections, arrays, I/O channels, generators, and iterators. The Stream API provides several methods to create streams from these different sources. How can you tell that a string is an anagram of another string? To determine if two strings are anagrams, you can check if they have the same length and the same characters in different orders. This can be done by sorting the characters of both strings and comparing them, or by using a frequency map to count each character. Do streams and collections have common methods? Streams and collections in Java share some common conceptual methods, like filter, map, and for each, but the actual implementations differ. Collections are about data storage and management, whereas streams are about data processing and computation. What were the main features of Java 8? Java 8 introduced several major features, including lambda expressions for functional programming, the Stream API for processing collections, the new date and time API, default methods in interfaces, and the optional class to better handle null values. How does finalize work? The finalize method in Java is called by the garbage collector before an object is removed from memory. It's typically used to release system resources or to perform cleanup operations. However, its use is generally discouraged as it is unreliable and unpredictable. What is the difference between collection and a set? Both collection and set are interfaces in the Java Collections framework. Collection is the root interface, whereas set is a subinterface that represents a collection that cannot contain duplicate elements. What is a marker interface? A marker interface in Java is an interface with no method declarations. It is used to signal to the JVM or to frameworks that objects of the implementing class have a certain property, such as serializable, clonable, etc. What is the signature of a method? The signature of a method in Java includes its name and the parameter list types. The return type and exceptions are not considered part of the method signature. Method overloading is achieved by having methods with the same name but different signatures. What kind of method can you override? In Java, you can override methods that are not marked as final or static. You can override methods in a subclass that have the same name, return type, and parameter list as those in the parent class. The access level can't be more restrictive than the original methods. What is a JIT? JIT stands for Just-in-Time Compiler. It is a part of the Java runtime environment that improves the performance of Java applications by compiling bytecode into native machine code at runtime, thus reducing the time needed for interpretation. What is a default method? A default method is a method in an interface that has an implementation. Introduced in Java 8, it allows adding new methods to interfaces without breaking the existing implementation of these interfaces. What is a method reference? Method references in Java are a shorthand notation of a lambda expression to call a method. They are used to refer directly to a method by name and are often used in stream operations and functional interfaces. How can you find a character in a string? In Java, you can find a character in a string using methods like indexOf, which returns the index of the first occurrence of the specified character, or -1 if the character is not found. What is a static method? A static method is a method that belongs to the class rather than instances of the class. It can be called without creating an instance of the class. Static methods are often used for utility or helper methods. How to create a singleton. A singleton in Java can be created by making the constructor private and providing a static method that returns the instance of the class. The instance is stored as a private static variable. This ensures that only one instance of the class is created. Difference between string, string buffer, and string builder? String is immutable in Java, meaning once created, its value can't be changed. String buffer and string builder are mutable. String buffer is thread-safe with synchronized methods, whereas string builder is not synchronized and hence faster but not thread-safe. How to make a class immutable? To make a class immutable in Java, declare the class as final, so it can't be extended, make all its fields final and private, provide no setter methods, and ensure that methods can't be overridden to change the state. If the class has mutable fields, return copies of them. Explain finally. In Java, the finally block is used in exception handling. It is always executed whether an exception is handled or not. It's typically used for cleanup code like closing connections or releasing resources. What is an array list? An array list in Java is a resizable array implementation of the list interface. It allows for dynamic resizing, providing more flexibility than standard arrays. It's part of the Java Collections framework and offers fast random access to elements. What is a map? In Java, a map is an interface that maps keys to values. It cannot contain duplicate keys, each key can map to at most one value. Common implementations include hashmap, treemap, and linked hashmap. Difference between overriding and overloading? Overriding in Java occurs when a subclass provides a specific implementation for a method that is already defined in its superclass. Overloading, on the other hand, is defining multiple methods with the same name but with different parameters, different type, number, or both. What is a functional interface? A functional interface in Java is an interface that contains exactly one abstract method. These are intended to be used with lambda expressions. Examples include runnable, callable, and comparator. How can you reverse a string? To reverse a string in Java, you can use the string builder or string buffer class, which have a built-in reverse method. Alternatively, you can iterate through the string from the end to the beginning and build a new reversed string. How can you duplicate an array? An array in Java can be duplicated using the clone method, which returns a shallow copy of the array. Another way is to use system.arrayCopy or arrays.copyof, which also create a new array with the same elements. What about equals and hashcode? The equals method in Java is used to check if two objects are equivalent. The hashcode method returns an integer hashcode for the object. It's important that if two objects are equal, as per equals, they must have the same hashcode. What is the difference between equals and equals? In Java, the equals operator checks if two object references point to the same object in memory. Equals, on the other hand, checks if two objects are logically equal, as defined by the equals method in the objects class. What is the main characteristic of the string class? The primary characteristic of the string class in Java is its immutability. Once a string object is created, its content cannot be altered. Any modification results in the creation of a new string object. How can you sort an array? An array in Java can be sorted using the arrays.sort method, which uses a dual pivot quicksort algorithm for primitive types and a modified merge sort algorithm for objects, considering the natural ordering or using a specified comparator. What is the JVM? The JVM, or Java Virtual Machine, is the part of the Java runtime environment that executes Java bytecode. It provides a platform-independent way of executing Java code, enabling Java to be a write-once, run-anywhere language. How do you sum the elements of an array? To sum the elements of an array in Java, you can iterate through the array, adding each element to a sum variable. Alternatively, Java 8 introduced the stream API, where you can convert the array to a stream and use the sum method. What differences between string and char? The main difference is that string objects are immutable in Java, while a char array is mutable. This means you can change individual characters in a char without creating a new array, but modifying a string results in creating a new string object. Can you cite methods from the object class? Some key methods in the object class include clone, equals, hashcode, toString, wait, notify, and notify all. These methods provide fundamental behavior to all objects in Java. What is the object class? The object class is the root class in the Java class hierarchy. Every class in Java implicitly extends the object class, which means every object in Java inherits methods from this class. What is Java? Java is a high-level, class-based, object-oriented programming language that is designed to have as few implementation dependencies as possible. It is known for its portability across platforms, which is achieved through the JVM.